Hello, Kristen.
Hey, Emily.
I would like to know, what are you reading right now?
I am reading Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross.
Ooh, okay. I have that. So I'm going to admit this, and it's sad because it's true, but I literally have a stack, it's probably 2 feet tall, of unopened book mail. Guess what's in that unopened book mail?
I don't
Wild
know how you
Reverence.
do it. I don't know how you do it. Like, I get book mail and I'm like, I have to open it right now.
Some of
Um,
it is like slightly open, but most of it is not, which is really sad.
I'm about 75% of the way through with it, and it is just as beautiful as everything
Oh,
else she writes. So,
I'm very excited.
what about you?
Well, I'm reading like a million things, but
Of course.
what I just finished is what comes to mind, and that was the Jeremy Renner biography. The like, what is it like? My Last Breath?
Oh,
Take Every
yes.
Breath, breath
Something
something.
about breath.
So good. Okay, a lot of language.
hmm
So for those who are sensitive, be aware. But I did the audiobook, and hearing him read it, of course, is fantastic. But it was also just very well written. And what
Awesome.
a harrowing experience. That's all I'll say about it.
Yes.
But it's crazy.
That one's on my list now.
Yeah, it is good. Well, let's get to this episode. Hi, I'm Emily, author of the Xeris Galaxy Saga, among other things.
And I am Kristen Crum, author of the YA rom-com It Happened at Christmas, among other things.
We're so excited to welcome you to The Margins, a podcast where we have candid conversations about the writing life, indie publishing, the book industry, and more.
So let's get started.
All right, I'm super excited about today's topic. Let us know what it is, Kristen.
Today's topic is writing with a full-time commitment. Can it be done?
Dun dun dun. That is the question.
Yeah, so Emily, what do you think? Do you think that it can be done?
I think yes, but I also think it has to be done if you're in the middle of a contract. But it kind of
Yes.
depends. I think we're probably taking it from a couple of different angles here. You were the one who came up with this topic. So, what was it that inspired you to ponder this question?
I think when I came up with this question, it was just because I'd been thinking about for the past oh 14 years, I have been simultaneously building a business as well as writing. And it's never been one or the other. It's kind of always been in tandem. And I have had conversations where other writers are like, I have to do this or I have to do this. I can't do both. And for me, I feel like it is a and
Hmm.
situation, not an or situation. I really feel like writing is what I have been called to do, but the business side of things, the day job side of things is something that I have to do because I have to bring in income for the family, right? So
Hmm.
for me, it's an and thing. So I think it can be done. But with saying that, I feel like there's a little bit more that goes into that.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, as I've been thinking about this as well, I'm in the same situation. I think that's why we've had so many conversations about this.
Yeah.
Because it is one thing to be able to just write and have the freedom that you want and all those wonderful things, but the reality kind of hits and you're like, well, I can't have that, right? And I think, like, especially from the people that we talk to who are aspiring or aspiring authors who want to be published, whether that's traditional or indie, a lot of them maybe have the wrong impression, like, oh, well, if I don't have 8 hours a day to dedicate to writing, haha, who does? Then I can't be a full-time writer. And I don't think that that's true.
I agree. I agree. And I've heard of so many successful authors who have crazy day jobs, like lawyers or
Hmm.
doctors or, like these really big, you think that you
Yeah.
can't do both. And these people are getting up like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and they are getting the words in before they even go into the office. And so I think one of the biggest things that you have to do when you're doing an and situation is you have to throw out all of your expectations of what it means to be a writer. Like, gone are the days, they're not gone, but very rare are the days where you get to just, curl up in your writing cabin in the middle of the woods that doesn't have any internet access or cell phone access, and you just get to write and you get to read, and you get to sip on your tea and your coffee. And yes, that's the dream, right? But you have to throw that out of your mind of I can't write until I get to that point. I mean, there
Mhm.
may be a point in your life where you are so successful that that is your reality. And if that is your dream, I say go after it full force, put in the work now, do as much as you can with your um, and make that dream happen. Right, me and Emily, because we would love to come sit in your warm and cozy cabin and write the weekend away. But um, yeah, I think a big thing is to throw out the expectations of what you think has to be the writing life.
Honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot actually because we've been kind of dreaming, in our boxes to each other about, well, wouldn't it be great if all we had to do was our writing? And maybe we'll get there someday. I'm not sure. Now, granted, we still have lives to live, right? Like dinner always comes every night, that type of
Yes.
thing. But if my only responsibility was my books, and then, you have to divide that by marketing your books and editing and all the things that come along with that. Um, would I want that? And I'm not sure. Like a big part of me says yes, that's all I want to do. But then my alternative, I guess, right now is designing book covers, and I do really enjoy that. So it's not something that I'm just like, oh, I don't ever want to do that again. But I think what we desire is the autonomy that apparently, or maybe like appears to come with those authors who, well, my only job is writing. I think it's probably they're doing a lot more things than just writing as well. So I think that, like you're saying, there's got to be maybe a more fleshed out picture to that. But there also are a few things that we kind of brainstormed that we think would help for those of you who are listening and maybe you have a full time job or you're a full time student or a full time mom or whatever it is that you're full time with, but you have this desire to write, whether that's to be published or just to be accomplished yourself. And so we thought we would like drop in some things that we think might be helpful to help you kind of reorient your day maybe, or maybe reorient your thoughts towards what does it look like then to fit writing into my schedule.
Right, right. And so one of the first things that when we think about doing both, having our writing commitments and working full time. And when I say working full time, it's like you were saying, student, momming,
Mhm.
work, whatever that is the first thing is that you have to make reasonable goals and break them down.
Mhm.
Emily, you did this recently.
Recently
Would
as
you
in this
like
morning?
would you like to share your experience about breaking down
Yes,
a reasonable
yes.
goal or
Oh
unreasonable
gosh.
goal?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I'm the queen of unreasonable goals.
Oh, yeah, I'm right
And
there with you.
I was writing with a friend this morning, and actually it was great because I shared a little bit of this with her, and she reminded me of some key crucial things. But I am very well known for making very extravagant goals, and especially when it's like Emily planning mode, that's when I'm like very positive, right? I think we both are. I actually know we both
W
are because we've both
When
done
we
this.
plan, girl, we could rule the world with our
Yes,
planning.
in like a week.
In a week, yes. We
Exactly.
could have everything turned around.
Yes. So I've talked about this on my other podcast, but one of the things that I think is really crucial is to be able to break stuff down into smaller, like I said, reasonable, yes, but also like very like understandable goals. So for me, that looks like editing right now. I'm editing the second half of my book, which is really the full length of a very long novel. And so I'm taking it by pages because to me that actually makes the most sense with this editing goal. Usually it'd be words for me because as a former ghostwriter, I can really think in words and it's very helpful. But this is on pages. And so this is not a reasonable goal, but if I can do 60 pages a day, I can have the whole second half done in a week. We'll come back like in the next podcast and I'll give you an update on how that goes. But in sharing this with my friend, I was like, oh, I can probably do about 15 pages an hour. So that's about 4 hours. And she was like, plan for five. And I was like, ah, that is so wise because it's true. there's invariably going to be something that draws you away. Unfortunately for me, it's probably Instagram, and I will get distracted. And so if I can plan for, which is a lot, right? 5 hours a day right now, that's not possible for most people. But I'm talking about when I'm like kind of doing a half and half split with half of my design business, half of my writing, just for a very short time, so I can get this book off my plate. But to me, that was very reasonable and understandable. And so I put that into my like very handy dandy spreadsheet, blah, blah, blah. And then I was able to actually kind of look ahead. And I didn't really, this isn't something that we were like talking about, but I do think it's good to kind of be able to give yourself a little like, I'm going to call it a treat, but it's not like literally a treat. I'm really looking forward to another book that I want to start writing. And for me to be able to see where I could start that book on my schedule was so helpful. And so, and I know like, and you can share too what your goals are, Kristen. But for me, about 3,000 words a day tends to be good when I'm not doing anything like, anything else aside from my design work. So being able to like start to put that on my calendar, I was I was able to feel excited, right?
Oh,
And
good.
it pushes me to really want to buckle down and get these pages done each day.
I love that. I am the same way when it comes to making the plans and being very ambitious with my plans and then not quite executing them as planned.
Mhm.
So an idea and a tip that we have come up with when making these goals is that you have to bring other people on board with your plans. The reason why isn't so that it can be like, oh, look at me, look how much I'm doing. It's more so, hey, Emily, this is how many words that I have to write every single day. Can you follow up with me and make sure I'm getting done?
Mhm.
I know in the past that has been either you have had words or I have had words, and it was like, "Hey, how you doing today?" "Oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. I haven't gotten any of my words down, and I really don't feel like writing." "Okay, cool. Well, I'm challenging you to a 15-minute sprint right now. We're going to sprint, so get ready."
Mhm.
And then we'll just start going through those. And that has really helped, especially when you're working, especially when you get into the murky middle and you're like, "Never mind. I hate this project. I'm giving my money back. I'm tearing up my contract, that I'm not doing this anymore."
Yeah.
It really helps to have those people come alongside you and just hold you up and
Mhm.
encourage you to keep going, or, challenge you to a random 15-minute writing sprint so that you can at least get some words in. Um, what about you, Emily?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the hard thing I think too is that okay, we're talking about how do we fit writing into an already busy schedule. And just recently I follow this guy on Instagram who's a runner because you guys know I'm enjoying my running life right now. Even after doing the half marathon, which is good. I still feel good and I still want to run. But he was talking about how does he fit in training for his next marathon basically. And one of the things he said I think totally applies to us as writers, and that is to sometimes you have to make concessions. And that is not fun. And that is not something that maybe you don't put that on a t-shirt, right? Like, hey, be a writer, give up XYZ thing or whatever.
Sleep.
hmm But that's the thing, right? Is like there are going to be a few things that you might need to compromise on. And it's not everything. It's not that you turn down every person who asks you to go somewhere or whatever, but maybe you give up a Saturday morning to write on your book. Maybe you, like you said, wake up a little bit earlier to get some words in on that book. Maybe instead of watching two episodes of that really awesome Netflix show, you just watch one and spend the rest of the time writing. Whatever that looks like for you, if you truly love it and you're truly interested in, getting to the end of your book, there's going to be a few things that you might need to give up. What are something have you given up something that you're like, this is what I notice I sacrifice on when I really need to get this done?
um, Lately, I will say that I have been trying more so, especially in the last month. Social media has just not been very fun, and I
Mm,
have found that not scrolling. So, literally, I will get on, I will post for the day, I'll answer any comments, I will respond to any direct messages, and I mean, I might look at like one or two funny videos that a friend have sent, but that's it. I turn it
Mhm.
off and I put it away, and I have found that has helped so much. I carry around a little notebook. This is a little moleskin notebook, and I will jot thoughts down, or if a scene comes to me, what have you, like, that is there. If I have a moment of my day where, like, I'm ready to start scrolling because 'cause I'm bored, I
Mhm.
have that, like, lull, I'll try to pick up my notebook or something.
Smart.
And how does this make more time for for writing? I have found that my brain is more awake, if you wanna say, to those creative things. So when I
Mm.
sit down to write, I can get into that writing flow state a little bit more, and it has been amazing.
Mm.
I sat down and wrote hand wrote a 5-page article the
Mhm.
other day, and I was like, "Where did this come from?" And I really think that it's because I have been staying off of social media and scrolling. I don't have any games on my phone,
Mhm.
so I think that helps.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think this is perfect transition into our pub tip of the day
Yes.
because I think we hear that and we're like, oh, but we're told to grow a platform and we're told to be consistent and we're told to have a presence on
Mhm.
social media, etc. Which I do agree with those things to an extent. But and I first saw this like exampled, I guess you could say, by Erin Phillips. She's awesome. I forget her handle, but we'll put it somewhere that you can find it in the show notes or whatever. But she used a graphic at the end of her posts that was like she's in ghost mode. And so I kind of, with her permission, I kind of adopted it and said, well, I'm off planet. And I created a little graphic. And whether it was a reel, so it was like a slide at the end of a reel or the last photo in a carousel, I was able to kind of continue to have a presence on social media by scheduling out those posts. But people were able to see, especially by that end little thing, like, oh, so she's taking a break to like focus on her book or whatever. Awesome. I'm still going to reply because I want to engage, but she'll get to me when she can. And so I think that's like a great way to do it is just to really utilize the scheduling.
That is a great tip. I was just talking to a friend about that last week, how we were talking about platform and the need to build the platform and post on platforms
Hmm.
so that you can build, but then not having time.
Yeah.
Or the whole, I post, but then I look up and I've spent 3 hours just completely
In another world.
scrolling. Yeah, scrolling.
And not in
Like,
a good way.
yes, yes, exactly. And so I recommended to take all of social media off your phone and to
Mm.
just rely on scheduling apps so that you
Hmm.
can schedule stuff onto your platforms, but you don't have that, like, oh, I've scheduled and now I'm just going to scroll. And then maybe on the weekends re-download it on your phone, check in with everybody. Like what you were saying, you could have a
Hmm.
ghost mode or drafting mode or off planet mode.
Hmm.
So, and that's something how you can still build that without feeling like you have to get on and you have to scroll and you have to
Hmm.
lose a little bit of your life, which is better spent writing, because what is going to move the needle in your big dreams and your goals? And that is writing the next book or the next
Hmm.
paragraph or the next page or whatever it is. But
Which then leads us to our bonus pub tip
yes.
today. You want to give that to us?
Yeah. So this is something that I do regularly. This is how I wrote It Happened at Christmas. But if you are facing a super busy day, you can't see a way to fit in a writing, stop looking for blocks of time and instead find a 15-minute window, set a timer. Emily and mine favorite is called Forest app. It's on your phone. Set a timer and write as much as you can. And even if that is all the writing that you have done for the day, it's still more than you would have done if you waited for that big chunk of time.
Mhm.
I found myself, I carried around a notebook with me everywhere. I wrote in school pickup lines. I wrote at stoplights. I wrote.
We don't maybe advise that, but
I was stopped. There was a lot of traffic. It was school traffic, which is
Eh.
probably not any better. But I would write on the sidelines while my kids were at soccer practice. You just you find these little bits of time and you
Mhm.
just put yourself there and you get those 15 minutes in here and there. And honestly, I did that for, I think I had that book written in 2 months,
Mhm.
maybe 2.5. doing that, just keeping that notebook with me, writing every chance that I got. I would write while I was waiting for water to boil for rice. Here's another idea for you. Instead of while you're waiting for a website to load or you're on hold with somebody that you have to pay a bill to or whatever, instead of scrolling social media on your phone or playing a game on your phone, pull out your notebook and start writing.
That's so good. It's again, like you said at the beginning, we have to take off the blinders of like, well, this
Mhm.
is what it looks like to be a writer, and instead replace it with what actually it means to be a writer is that you're writing.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
that you're in like some remote location
Mhm.
or it's the perfect morning with a beautiful candle, which it can be that sometimes, but I love that. I think that that's huge.
Yes, and I think one of my favorite stories about a an author who wrote in the margins is, I believe it was Lauren Oliver, wrote numerous books on her BlackBerry,
Mm.
on the subway, going to and from work.
Wow, that's awesome. It's the
Yeah.
words, right? We just
Yeah.
need the words and then we can edit them. So it's
Yes.
getting them onto the page. I know that recently we've been talking a lot about like dictation. This is kind of behind the
Mhm.
scenes, not necessarily on the podcast yet. And I know a friend of mine has started doing it. I am very, very, like, excited and interested in doing it as well, but I'm also, like, a little afraid of the learning curve, so I'm
Mhm.
not quite there yet, but hopefully we'll do an episode on that when maybe we both get the chance to give it a try
Yeah.
because it's I mean, that opens up a world of possibilities if you can talk into your phone, and which, yes, you can do that now using a voice recorder or even just, like, talk to text. I mean, that's kind of the backwards way to do it, but you can get some words in, and
You
I
can.
walk the dog every day, so that could be, like, almost an
Well,
hour.
when I have done dictation in the past, and I haven't done it in a while because this was when my kids were in school and now
Mhm,
they're homeschooled, so there's not a quiet moment to dictate.
mhm,
Um, but I would dictate into my voice recorder on my iPhone, and then I would
mhm.
upload it into a program, and it was
That's
mwah,
awesome.
chef's kiss. Anyway, but we'll
Yes.
we'll talk about that later
I
on
love
another
it. I
episode.
love it. Well, we have a listener question that was sent in to us. I think this was a while ago, so I cannot remember exactly who it was. But the question is if your indie sales are tragic, we're sorry, is it still possible to consider traditional publishing or is it even worth the risk? What are your thoughts, Kristen?
Well, I'm a little bit of a rebel because I say yes, it is worth the risk. But this is also coming from a girl who has a Christmas book that has been written, and so really my numbers aren't that great, and because it's Christmas and it's
Mhm.
YA, which that's like 2, like, 2
Yeah, two
jabs for
nails in the
me.
coffin.
Yes, yes. So I say, go for it. It hasn't necessarily stopped me, but I do think that there are other, ways to get around this.
Hmm.
If your sales are tragic and you do try the trad and you're just not getting anywhere, it might be worth looking into maybe a pen name.
Hmm.
That was this is kind of like always like my backup plan because I will say, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And Emily's like, "Well, I need to caution you because that might be a bad idea." But like, "Oh, it's fine. If everybody hates it, I'll just write under a pen name from now on." So I might not be the best person to ask for advice because, I'm just like, "Oh, you can do it."
You could do it. It's
What about
fine.
you, Emily? You probably have better insight.
No. Well, first of all, I actually just read an article on Substack about this very thing from an agent. If I can find it, I will put the link somewhere that you guys can find it. But it was very insightful because what she was saying was this tragic fact. She called it gaslighting from the publishing industry. The fact that if your very first book maybe doesn't do super well, and this was based on like being a traditionally published author, and your first book is not doing well, then it's almost as if your name is sullied. And she said that's not how people purchase books. If Joe walks into a bookstore and he's looking for a book and he picks it up and he's like, "Oh, this title by E.A. Hendricks. Cool." If the book looks good, he's going to buy it. He's not going to think, "Oh, that's the author whose first book failed or whatever." He's just going to purchase the book if it's interesting enough to him.
Let's be honest. If it failed probably hasn't heard of you anyway.
Very true. But she drew out a lot more. I'm very much just scraping the surface here of her article. But she was clearly a little frustrated because she said that the conventional wisdom is to then just go with a pen name. I know I've mentioned this before, but like Riley Sager, that's a pen name. And he finally, like, I think it's like maybe his third pen name or something. And he finally hit it really big. And you can tell because he stayed with that pen name. And now those books are really big. But, so we've seen it happen and it does work. But if you're also worried about like, well, will I lose like all the traction that I had as an indie coming up to this place? I think it's worth it to maybe consider your options. And maybe your plan A is to, well, I'm just going to pitch and see what happens. And if you're looking for an agent, I think at the end of the day, and she also mentioned this in the article, if the book is good, the book is good. Like they're not going to necessarily be, completely put off by past sale numbers if the book is good, on trend, ready to go.
I will say where I feel like you might see it is in any advances offered. They might
Hmm.
be a little bit more cautious as opposed to
True.
like giving you this huge advance. They might be a little bit more reserved on their offer, but that's a foot in the door. And if you
Hmm.
prove it, then
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But then there was a comment to this article that I thought was also very interesting, and the commenter was, I believe she was a nonfiction editor for a big five publisher, and she was able to say you have to think of it too as like you're trying to sell yourself to the sales team, or the editor who believes in your book is trying to do that. If they're thinking, well, these sales numbers just don't match up, well, they also mentioned, like you said, it could be reflected in a lower advance offer, or maybe not a contract. But I would say focus first on the story. Make a
mhm.
really great story. And if you can sell that to an agent who believes in you, you might have a really good chance. So I don't think that like those past numbers have to necessarily dictate what your future success will be.
100% agreed.
All right. Wow. How do we end these things?
I don't remember, but this has been great. We have loved having you guys here, and we'll see you guys next week with another episode.
Bye.